Starting a renovation project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for all your essentials at our 10 stores island-wide. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
Crisp and refreshing. Room temperature or chilled. A pure water would drink. The temperature by Pure Water is...
It's 32 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 28 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide News at this hour, over 1,400 dengue cases have been recorded in the country since the start of the year.
As at July the 16th, we would have been notified of 1,406 cases.
And CMO Dr. Jacqueline Bissacer-McKenzie says young people continue to record the highest numbers of dengue cases island-wide.
Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop is the new president of the Court of Appeal.
I accept this appointment, ladies and gentlemen, because it's on merit, recognized merit.
Case management hearing for murder-accused Leota Bradshaw and her 3 co-accused pushed back to September 16.
In news from the rest of the world, Venezuelan opposition leader security chief detained.
Obama, Pelosi, and other Democrats make a fresh push for Biden to reconsider the 2024 race.
In headline sports, Reggae Boys fall 6 places on FIFA Coca-Cola World Rankings.
And later in our broadcast, Thursday, July 18, 2024. In our cover story at 5:35, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says JPS has supplemented its resource pool with former employees in its effort to complete the restoration of power in several communities across the island.
The company is currently engaging Caroline to provide support resources. We should be getting line workers from countries such as Belize and Cayman.
The company's Director of Corporate Communications, Winsome Callum, will join us.
Also in the cover story, the Health Minister says only 3 of the island's hospitals still have not returned to normality following the passage of Hurricane Beryl.
Black River, Noel Homes, and Falmouth General are still operating in emergency mode, and we're taking all the necessary action to get those back up as quickly as possible.
You'll hear more.
In Public Opinion at 6:26, we ask, is there a mosquito nuisance in your community? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide90FM.
At 7, a shooting incident in the Dutch Caribbean island of St. Martin on Wednesday has left the leader of a political party injured and his wife dead. The president of their parliament, Sarah Westcott Williams, will join us.
And at 8, it's Jamaican Dads with Dennis Brooks, Garth Williams, Marlon Campbell, and Floyd Green.
All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio JM.com, and on the Nationwide app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Thursday afternoon, it's Thursday, July 18, 2024.
News at 5 is brought to you by the new Cheetah Zinger from KFC. Topped with marinara sauce, mozzarella cheese, and pepperoni. Available for a limited time only. KFC, it's finger licking good.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. The Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jacqueline Bissacer-McKenzie, is reiterating the call for Jamaicans to take the necessary precautions against mosquito breeding sites across the island. Her call comes as Jamaica has recorded over 1,400 dengue cases since the start of the year. Dr. Bissacer-McKenzie provided the update at a media conference held by the Ministry of Health and Wellness on Thursday. Mahiri Stewart reports.
According to the Health Ministry, 74 species of mosquitoes have been identified across the island. However, only 3 are known disease carriers. One such disease is dengue fever, carried by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. In the latest update, Dr. Bissacer-McKenzie says there are now more than 11,000 cases of dengue in the country. Of that number, more than 1,000 have been recorded since January.
As at July the 16th, 2024, the National Surveillance Unit recorded between 2023 and 2024 11,768 suspected, probable, and confirmed dengue cases. So in 2024, so far, we would have been notified of 1,406 cases, and in 2023, we were notified of 10,362 cases. Of these cases that were notified, 1,774 were confirmed. The predominant serotype was dengue type 2. 1,746 were confirmed to be dengue type 2.
The CMO says 10 people have died from the disease.
For the period 2023 to 2024, we would have had 29 dengue-related deaths, 19 were suspected, and 10 were confirmed. And this just shows that dengue is a very serious illness, and at this time we really have to be very cautious in terms of preventing those mosquito bites.
Dr. Bisaser Mackenzie says following Hurricane Beryl, there was an expected increase in the mosquito population. She adds that southern parishes are seeing a boom in breeding sites.
The parishes in the south were mostly affected, and of course, for Hurricane Beryl, the parishes that were most affected were the parishes, again, that would have had the most breeding based on the number of dengue cases that we would have seen last year. So it's really, again, very important to highlight the precautions that need to be taken, especially in these parishes. And these are, we're talking about on the western side and going into the south in terms of Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and Clarendon.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, Dr. Bisaser Mackenzie says young people continue to record the highest number of dengue cases island-wide.
The age groups that are affected are mostly our younger population. And we saw in 2019 when it was the babies that were severely affected. In 2023, the young population, but still going up to the 5 to 14 age group. So between 0 to 14 was where we had most of the cases. And this, of course, would be because the older population would have been exposed to the various serotypes during their lifetime and may have resistance, while the younger population are more newly exposed to some of these serotypes, and so they will get more infections.
However, the CMO says the majority of the individuals dying from the disease are either seniors or suffering from illnesses.
You recognize that the majority of our deaths happened in the older population. What we will see that persons with comorbidities are still at risk of having severe dengue. And again, even as we speak about dengue, a particular infectious illness, we have to be reminded about the impact of non-communicable diseases. We see that the majority of deaths occurred among persons who had comorbidities, and even so more among persons who had multiple illnesses.
Dr. Jacqueline Bisaser Mackenzie, the country's chief medical officer.
Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop has been sworn in as Jamaica's first female president of the Court of Appeal. She took the oath of office at King's House on Thursday. More in this report from Shalois Michael.
Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop took to the podium on Thursday, solemnly swearing to administer justice without fear or favor. She is taking over as president of the appeal court following the retirement of Justice Patrick Brooks. Justice MacDonald Bishop is the first female to assume the office. Addressing the swearing-in ceremony, Prime Minister Andrew Holness congratulated Justice MacDonald Bishop on her appointment. He says her leadership will be instrumental in advancing the mission of the Court of Appeal, ensuring that justice is accessible to all and served with integrity and impartiality.
Your swearing in today marks a historic moment for our judiciary and for Jamaica, as you become the first woman to hold this prestigious position. Justice MacDonald Bishop's ascension is a testament to her exceptional legal acumen, dedication, and the respect she commands within the legal community. Justice MacDonald Bishop, I am confident that under your leadership, the Court of Appeal will continue to uphold the highest standards of judicial excellence.
The Prime Minister, in an earlier statement, pointed out that Justice McDonald Bishop's appointment exemplifies the government's dedication to creating opportunities for women to excel in leadership roles. Justice McDonald Bishop expressed gratitude for the opportunity to lead the country's appellate court.
I accept this appointment, ladies and gentlemen, because it's on merit, recognized merit. I thank the Prime Minister for the blind faith and confidence he has reposed in my capabilities. The same applies to the leader of the opposition. He too followed blind faith. Permit me to salute all my remarkable predecessors in the law who have paved the way for me and who have prepared me for this mission. So I will be a follower as much as I will be a leader.
Justice McDonald Bishop also vowed to work with the relevant stakeholders to uphold and defend the Constitution of Jamaica.
I intend to collaborate with the executive so that the judiciary, the third arm of government, can take its rightful place in the governance of this country. I must continue my labor for justice, for the benefit of all Jamaicans, even those who you may believe are guilty. But the Constitution must prevail at all times.
Shaloy Smichael for Nationwide News.
The Energy Minister, Darrell Vaz, said it could cost the country 7 times as much money to run power lines underground as opposed to using light poles. The idea of running lines underground has increased since the passage of Hurricane Beryl 2 weeks ago. The Category 4 system affected more than 2,600 light poles across the country. More than 200 of them were in St. Elizabeth alone. Minister Vaz says the idea is being considered by the government.
Just bearing in mind that the grid did not collapse as would have been expected. It went down to 30%. If it had gone down fully, we would be talking a different talk. So we have to give some credit for that. But yes, and the issue of whether or not the time has come for burying the lines is definitely up for discussion. The information that I have is that to bury as against put above is 7 times more the cost in relation to putting above ground than below ground.
The minister says the government is also exploring ways of providing backup power for health facilities and water pumping stations in the event of another weather system.
However, question is, do we have 7 times the value in relation to the destruction? So that discussion has to take place. I do believe that there are lessons to be learned, both in terms of the JPS and both in terms of government, in terms of how we prepare and what we do. You would have seen the Prime Minister speak about giving a mandate now for generators for all major health clinics, generators for all major water pumps, NWC pumps and other infrastructure. So it has gotten the attention in relation to where the biggest impact has been caused.
Darrell Vaz, the Minister of Energy, he was addressing Wednesday's post-cabinet media briefing at the office of the Prime Minister.
Murder-accused Leota Bradshaw and her 3 co-accused will return to the Supreme Court on September 16 for another case management hearing. Bradshaw is charged with masterminding the abduction and murder of 10-month-old Saraya Paulwell, the daughter of East Kingston and Port Royal MP Philip Paulwell, and the child's mother, 27-year-old Tashina Patterson. Bradshaw, the alleged triggerman, David Smith, Roland Balfour, and Bijan Black all appeared in court remotely on Thursday. The proceedings failed to get underway after Balfour's attorney, Courtney Rowe, informed the court that he would no longer be representing him. Balfour told the court that he's unable to afford a lawyer. As a result, the court assigned 2 legal aid lawyers to Balfour. The matter was adjourned to allow for disclosure to be made to the newly assigned attorneys. Bradshaw, Smith, Balfour, and Black were remanded into custody. The indictment charges them with murder, conspiracy to murder, kidnapping, conspiracy to kidnap, and accessory before the fact to murder. 2 other men, Richard Brown and Roshane Miller, pleaded guilty to the crime and were both sentenced. Miss Patterson and baby Saraya were kidnapped and murdered on September 9, 2023.
You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
Value Drug Pharmacy offers curbside pickup and delivery of your branded and generic drugs. WhatsApp your prescription to 876-881-6695. The time by Value Drug Pharmacy is...
It's 14 minutes after 5.
Rent-A-Kill Initial is the expert in pest control, air purification and hygiene services. Call today 876-926-4236.
The temperature by Rent-A-Kill is
32 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 27 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay.
I pursue opportunities.
I prepare for opportunities.
I plan for opportunities.
With Sagicor e-Invest, you can prepare, plan for and pursue IPO opportunities. Browse IPOs, review IPO details and prospectuses. Select and apply for a featured IPO.
IPO
with Sagicor e-Invest. Think wealth. Visit sagicor.com.
Continuing the news. Nationwide News understands that a laborer was crushed to death at China Harbour Engineering Company check site in St. Thomas on Monday. He has been identified as 45-year-old Omar Menz of Hampton Court Meadows, Golden Grove in the parish. The tragic incident reportedly occurred at Check's office situated at Hordley in Golden Grove. It's understood that Mr. Menz was in the process of clearing hardened concrete from the mixing tank on a premix motor when the tank turned clockwise. This caused Mr. Menz to be pulled under the tank, crushing him to death. The police are investigating the incident.
A leader of a political party in St. Martin, Olivier Arindel, was shot and injured and his wife killed on the Dutch island on Wednesday in what is being described as a senseless act of violence. Police investigations are underway. However, the island's justice minister is alleging that the incident may be politically motivated. The shooting reportedly happened at the Coop Koi area of the country. Robian Williams reports.
Reports are that armed men fired at a vehicle being driven by Mr. Arindel, who is the political leader of the Walichi Movement for Change. Mr. Olivier Arindel is said to have received a shot in the back. His wife, Sabine Arindel, who was in the passenger seat, did not survive the shooting. St. Martin's Minister of Justice, Lyndon Lewis, has condemned the incident. In a statement on Thursday, Minister Lewis says 3 victims were urgently transported to St. Martin Medical Center. He says, quote, "It appears that these heinous acts may have been politically motivated," end quote. Minister Lewis says he strongly condemns all forms of violence, particularly those driven by political motives. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party leader and chairperson of the Parliament in St. Martin, Sarah Westcott Williams, extended sympathies to Mr. Arindel and his family.
It is unfathomable that this could take place on St. Martin with total disregard for the sanctity of human life. I do this, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Parliament of St. Martin. Our sympathy goes out to Olivier Arindel, his family, friends, and party members. It is even more incomprehensible that this act that took the life of Mrs. Arindel and left Mr. Arindel and others injured was allegedly done with total disregard for a young child in the vehicle in which the family was traveling.
Mrs. Westcott Williams says the police are working swiftly to apprehend the perpetrators.
No stone should be left unturned, and all resources should be made available to our justice chain to bring what transpired and the person or persons involved to light. I plead with everyone to let justice take its course swiftly and resolutely. There is no, and I repeat, no argument that justifies this heinous act. We believe in the sanctity of life, and I encourage the entire community of St. Martin to continue to uphold these values, even as we navigate these turbulent times.
St. Martin's Prime Minister Dr. Luke Mercelina dissolved Parliament in May, paving the way for a snap election in August. Mrs. Westcott Williams called for peace during the election period.
We should start this process with ourselves, and the election campaign in which we find ourselves cannot be business as usual. Our island and our future are at stake. As president of this august body, I call on all political and civic leaders to join hands and take a stand against violence in our community, against hate crimes and crime in general.
Robeanne Williams for Nationwide News.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
The head of security of Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has been detained. Members of the Venti Venezuela party say security chief Milcy Mesavia was taken away from the house where he was staying in the capital Caracas by members of the security forces. Neither the government nor the security forces have so far commented on why Mr. Avila was taken or where he's being held. Ms. Machado wrote on X that Mr. Avila had been accused of gender violence. Avila is the latest opposition activist to be detained in the run-up to the presidential election on July 28, in which the opposition hopes to unseat the incumbent Nicolas Maduro. The opposition has complained about harassment by the authorities for months. Dozens of members of her campaign team have been arrested, with some accused of involvement in anti-government conspiracies.
And in international news, pressure is increasing on President Joe Biden to re-evaluate his election bid. The latest push is reportedly coming from former President Barack Obama, who, it is said, has expressed private concerns to allies. Obama has reportedly conveyed to allies that Biden needs to consider the viability of his campaign, but has also made clear that the decision is one Biden needs to make. And Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, it is said, has privately told President Biden that the party could lose the ability to seize control of the House if he doesn't step away from the 2024 race. According to the Associated Press, Pelosi has also presented polling to Biden, which she argues shows he likely can't defeat Republican Donald Trump. But Pelosi, in a sharp statement on Thursday, denied those reports. She said the feeding frenzy from anonymous sources misrepresents any conversations she may have had with the president. Democratic unease is growing as the party moves closer to its convention next month.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose Assembly and Supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, over 1,400 dengue cases have been recorded in the country since the start of the year.
As of July the 16th, we would have been notified of 1,406 cases.
And CMO Dr. Jacqueline Bisseser-McKenzie says young people continue to record the highest number of dengue cases island-wide.
Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop is the new president of the Court of Appeal.
I accept this appointment, ladies and gentlemen, because it's on merit, recognized merit.
Case management hearing for murder-accused Leota Bradshaw and her 3 co-accused pushed back to September 16.
I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
Listeners, you can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
News at 5 was brought to you by the new Pizza Zinger from KFC. Topped with marinara sauce, mozzarella cheese, and pepperoni. Available for a limited time only. KFC, it's finger licking good.
No matter where you come from, the classroom or the boardroom, the farm or the front line, there's no dream too big for us to achieve together. Catch the action live this summer with a 7-day Prime Router plan for $1,100 and enjoy premium access to Sports Max on us. Activate a plan today. One side, One Digicel. One Jamaica. Digicel. Better connected.
Drive Hyundai. Hyundai vehicles beyond your dreams with an exclusive 4.99% interest rate. Yes! Shop Hyundai vehicles and get a super low 4.99% interest rate on your car loan. Plus 2 years free service, 1 year insurance, and 5 years warranty. Offer valid on all 2024 Hyundai vehicles. Drive your Hyundai with the lowest interest, 4.99%. Conditions apply.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. A sparkling century from Ollie Pope today steered England to 416 all-out on day one of the second cricket test against West Indies at Trent Bridge in Nottingham. Pope belted 121 off 167 balls with 15 fours and a 6 as the hosts took advantage after being asked to bat. Pope starred in a second wicket stand of 105 with Ben Duckett, who set an electric pace with 71 from 59 balls. And this came after England lost opener Zach Crowley to the third ball of the test match without a run on the board. Ben Stokes, 69, and Harry Brook, 36, also weighed in with good contributions. So too Jamie Smith, 36, and Chris Wokes, 37. Alzari Joseph led the bowling. He bagged 3 for 98, while there were 2 wickets each for Kevin Sinclair, Jaden Seals, and Kavem Hodge. Sinclair was a late inclusion into the 11. He came in for Gudakesh Moti, who's suffering with the flu. The Guyanese says they were happy to dismiss England on the opening day, but believes 400 is still too much.
We want to take 400. I think was a little too many, but like I said, we bowl them out once again, and I will say again, our bowling speaks volume. To bowl out a side like that with that quality, a world-class batsman as well. So I think we take there any day, bowling them out once again.
Sinclair scored over 500 runs in the last first-class season, and is looking forward to carrying that form when he gets a chance to bat.
So the bat just look to, be out there a bit longer and look to score some runs from the team. But that is yet to come. But I just want to remain focused and focus on my all-round game, and whatever the team requires me to do, I just do it to the best of my ability. So yeah, I'm just pretty focused in what I got to do when my chance comes with the bat.
The West Indies will start their reply when play resumes at 5 a.m. Jamaica time tomorrow. Defending champions Jamaica, they're still without a win after 3 games in the West Indies Rising Stars Under-19 cricket tournament. Today they were forced to settle for a draw with the Leeward Islands in a rain-interrupted game at Sion Hill. Play on the day got underway after a more than 3-hour delay, and Jamaica, who resumed on 15 for 3, declared their first innings on 90 for 9 in response to the Leeward Islands' first innings total of 80. Steve Wedderburn made 28 against Michael Palmer, 3 for 21. Batting a second time, the Leeward Islands closed on 136 for 8 when the game was called off. West Indies youth player Joel Anjou made 65 against the 3-wicket performances from Odell Samuels and Matthew Morgan. Jamaica will face Guyana in the final round of a league play at Arnas Vale starting next Tuesday. Over at Arnas Vale, Barbados scored a brilliant 9-wicket win over Guyana. Guyana were bowled out this morning for 97 in reply to 201 for 9 declared made by Barbados. And following on, they were dismissed for 184 with Jonathan Van Lange getting 48. Set 80 for victory, Barbados raced to 81 for 1 in 13 overs. The scheduled game at Conaree between the Windward Islands and Trinidad and Tobago was abandoned, as for the second straight day there was no play. Former technical director of Jamaica's national football team, Rene Simoes, is among those who applied for the job to be head coach of the national senior team. Simoes guided Jamaica historically to their only appearance at the Senior World Cup finals in France in 1998. The Brazilian ended his 6 years in charge in 2000, but returned for a second stint in 2008. However, it is understood that the technical team is not too keen on a third time for Simoes. Meanwhile, former Manchester United coach Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is believed to be the frontrunner for the job. Solskjaer is reportedly among the short list of 4 or 5 candidates to be interviewed for the post. Solskjaer and his former Manchester United teammate Dwight York are 2 of the biggest names amongst the initial 40 who showed interest. The post was left vacant less than a month ago after the resignation of Heimir Hallgrimsson. And we close out with the nationwide Olympic fact. It's sponsored by Fontana Pharmacy.
This is Nationwide's Olympic Facts, brought to you by Fontana Pharmacy. It's all good inside.
Did you know that Jamaican athletes competed as part of a unified Caribbean team at one Olympic Games? Yes, that's a fact. Jamaica's athletes competed as part of the West Indies Federation team at the 1960 Olympics in Rome.
That was Nationwide's Olympic Facts, brought to you by Fontana Pharmacy. It's all good inside.
We've got 8 more days, folks. 8 more days before the start of the Olympic Games. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? 8 days to go. We're counting down. In other words, let me just bring it a little closer for you. Next week, Friday, at this time, the opening ceremony would have been out of the way already. Yeah, it's 12:30 in the morning in France, Friday morning. So, well, maybe people would still be, along the Eiffel Tower route where the River Seine is. So maybe, but yeah, it would have been over by now. And we're getting ready after that for 17 full days of sheer sporting magic. All to be enjoyed right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the official and exclusive broadcasters for radio in Jamaica. That's sports. We're going to be back with more at 6:05.
Did you know that many of my schoolmates have an unhealthy diet, especially at school? And now 23% of them are overweight and or obese? And so one less sugary drink at my school may mean one friend less,
or 2 or 3,
at risk of cavities or diabetes. And if we're served less foods high in saturated fats, sugar and sodium, it may reduce our risk from obesity, heart disease and high blood pressure. The solution is simple, right? Act now. Let's get unhealthy foods and beverages out of our schools.
A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and partners.
No matter where you come from, the classroom or the boardroom, the farm or the front line, there's no dream too big for us to achieve together. Catch the action live this summer with a 7-day Prime Router plan for $1,100 and enjoy premium access to SportsMax on us. Activate a plan today. One side, one Digicel, one Jamaica. Digicel, better connected.
Everything you do with your JN Bank Visa credit card could be a win for you. Go shop win, dine win, travel win, or pay win bills with your JN Bank Visa credit card. Every time your purchases total $40,000 using your JN Visa credit card, you earn an entry to win. Every purchase you make adds up. Win weekly summer watch party kits of coolers and grocery vouchers so you don't miss the runnings. Or be one of 2 monthly winners of $100,000 cash. Don't have a JN Visa credit card? It's easy. Visit jnbank.com today. Win with your JN Bank Visa credit card. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
This are the National Dengue Free Crew. Come join the fight, stop mosquito from bite you. That mean we are go clean up school, workplace, home and community too. We have a task at plan, every crevice and corner for clean out the plan. Make we get rid of dengue across the island. Let's put it on the Facebook and Instagram. Tell the whole nation say this are the National Dengue Free Crew. Come join the fight, stop mosquito from bite you.
Mosquitoes wanted dead, not alive. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
We've been a part of everyday Jamaican life for over 25 years. From paydays to birthdays, unexpected emergencies to anniversary celebrations, the supermarket checkout line, or paying a bill or taxes on time. Our fast, secure debit network provides reliable service so you can always depend on Multilink. Jamaican and proud, fast, secure, everywhere.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide at 5. It's time for the Cover Story. 5:34. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Sanjay Lewis.
Mr. Lewis, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
All right, not too bad. Bugs, good? Yeah.
Everybody good.
Dana? Yes,
Yeah.
everybody's good. We hope we find you well, listeners. Yeah, for the cover story this afternoon, we're going to get an update from JPS. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the Jamaica Public Service Company has supplemented its resource pool with former employees in its effort to complete the restoration of power in several communities across the island.
The company is currently engaging Carolyn to provide support resources. We should be getting line workers from countries such as Belize and Cayman.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness. In the meantime, Energy Minister Darrell Vaz says a $50 million electricity disaster fund will be used by JPS to cover the costs of its restoration efforts. Speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing, Minister Vaz says the fund was created by the Office of Utilities Regulation to tackle rebuilding efforts after natural disasters. He says JPS had tapped into the fund as it prepared for Hurricane Beryl.
The fund currently has an accumulated value in the region of $50 million, and JPS will be allowed to draw down on this fund for its recovery. As a matter of fact, the OUR had approved a drawdown of $5 million prior to the hurricane to help fund inventory preparations for the hurricane season. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's good news. The bottom line is that they did spend close to $5 million to get inventory prior to the hurricane season, and unfortunately, at the beginning of the hurricane season, Beryl hit Jamaica.
Darrell Vaz there, the country's Minister of Energy. Joining us now with an update on power restoration and more is JPS's Director of Corporate Communications, Winsome Callum. Good afternoon, Ms. Callum.
Hello, good afternoon.
How are you?
How are you?
We're doing well. How are you?
Awesome. I am well, thank you.
All right. Okay, great. So first of all, where are we now this afternoon, 5:36, in terms of restoration across the country?
Well, I can't give you the details up to 5:36 this afternoon, but what I can tell you is that we have made significant progress since we last spoke. We have totally on our grid, we have almost 700,000 customers. In our worst hit parish of St. Elizabeth, we have about 38,000 customers. I can tell you that we have restored more than 50% of those customers in St. Elizabeth. For the rest of the island, we have just under 25,000 customers to be restored. And these 25,000 are stretched right across the parishes, some in small pockets that we are going into now to get to the individual customers and the small communities. But significant progress has been made.
And what is your projected timeline to have all your customers fully restored?
It will be different for different parishes. We expect that by this weekend, that is the 21st, that we will have a couple of parishes fully restored. But for the most part, some parishes will go up to next weekend, and the others will be round about August 5th. So we will be bringing them on in phases up to August 5th. I am hoping, expecting that by then we would have gotten on all of our customers.
Ms. Callum, one of the frequent complaints we're getting is that some customers are seeing, for example, they live on a particular street and they're at the top of the road, and at the bottom there's power, at the top there's no power, and they're having a hard time, they say, understanding why that is, and having a hard time reaching out to JPS to get a response. What do you say to those customers this afternoon?
Well, this is normal when you have a restoration or an event like what we had in the Category 4 hurricane. What happens is that different areas are fed by different power circuits, different lines take service to different areas. So one of the most common things is for half of a community or a portion of a community to get power back ahead of another part. The reason that segment is able to get power back earlier is because of the likelihood that there is minimal damage on that particular line that feeds that segment of the community. The other segment of the community might not see any damage immediately in their vicinity. However, they are fed by a line that could be seeing damage much further up, sometimes miles away. So that is the most common reason for you to see a part of a community restored and another part not restored. Something else that impacts communities, you may have just a cluster of houses that are without power, and the same applies to these smaller lines. It might be a street that comes off of a main line, and that particular feeder has not been energized because there's probably an issue there that needs to be resolved. And then you have the situation of the individual homes that might be a standalone in a community where everybody else has power. The most common reason for the individual homes to be still without power when everybody else has electricity is that there might have been a problem with that person's service wire. When you have very strong winds like we had with the Category 4 Hurricane Beryl, you could have service wires becoming dislodged. So if you are alone and everybody else has power, you may need to get an electrician to check your service wire to find out why you haven't gotten any power.
And I'm happy you mentioned that, because we've been getting a call of a particular elderly lady in Trelawney who says all around her there's power, but she has none. So you're saying in that situation where it's a single house that may not have been restored yet and they're seeing power around them, the best course of action is to try to reach out to an electrician.
Yes, and we need you to make that report to JPS, because it's very possible that in those individual circumstances we're not aware of what's happening. So we need you to tell us. Your electrician can help, but we also need to know. And you can communicate this to us by calling our call center numbers, which are 888-225-5577 for Flow, and for Digital 888-935-5577. You can also make the reports using the JPS app or by our website using our web chat feature. So let us know if you are on your own in a community surrounded by light, so that we can also give it attention.
Ms. Callum, another criticism is about the preparedness of JPS, and some have indicated that they are not of the opinion that JPS was adequately prepared for the storm. How do you assess that? Do you think that you guys were adequately prepared?
Yes, I do believe that we were as prepared as we could be. It is understandable why persons feel that way, because in many cases they're not seeing the disaster or the damage around them, and there's a level of impatience which we understand with the power being out for 2 weeks. So yes, we understand. In terms of preparedness, as you heard from the Prime Minister himself, we started our preparedness much earlier in the year, ahead of the season. And one of the things that we would have done is to ensure that we get additional inventory in place in expectation that there will be damage to our infrastructure. So we would have brought in the additional poles, wires, transformers, and so on. Another way that we prepare typically every hurricane season is by doing what we call structural integrity work, which is to make sure that we remove vegetation from lines, especially those that are most vulnerable, that we replace poles that have deteriorated, and generally strengthen the infrastructure with reconducting the replacing lines and so on. So yes, we actually continue to throughout the year to ensure that our system is ready. If you look at other utilities, you realize that it's the same process that is followed globally in terms of preparedness.
And making your system even more resilient, are there plans in place to look at that and how you can make it more resilient? Because we're going to have more hurricanes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is an ongoing conversation that we have with our regulators and other key parties, because the system has to be continually boosted to be made more robust and resilient, as you say. And one of the things that we have been doing is the continuing investment in the infrastructure. As you may be aware, over every year we spend an average of $80 million in strengthening the infrastructure in capital investment, that is. So, yes, there is more to be done. As with every other utility, you are continually investing. We're using technology more. And the investment in technology has actually helped us this time around so that we're able to, what we call, isolate areas that are vulnerable, that have been damaged, and restore power to those areas that are not damaged or have experienced minimal damage.
Ms. Callum, can you confirm to your customers this afternoon that the costs of restoration will actually come from this $50 million electricity disaster fund, and that those costs won't be passed on to them?
Well, there's a system that the OUR implemented many years ago. I think it was after Hurricane Ivan. The Hurricane Disaster Fund was established just before we got Hurricane Ivan, like about 2 months before. And the intention of that fund was to have money in place in lieu of insurance. This is like the insurance for utility companies, to have money in place to respond to a disaster like a hurricane Category 4. Now, we can confirm that the OUR will be open, will facilitate JPS spending money from this fund, because that's what it's there for. And the intention is to avoid as much as possible customers being asked to pay more. So we are not anticipating that customers will be asked to pay more for hurricane burial at all. I do not know, we do not know as yet the full cost of the damage, the full impact of the hurricane, but we're not anticipating that there will be any impact on electricity bills right now.
Do you have a preliminary figure as to the cost of damage?
No, we don't.
Mm-hmm. The reports of persons impersonating JPS workers asking for money to reconnect power, have you had those reports at JPS?
Oh, yes, we have. It is.
How widespread is it?
Well, we're getting reports from several parishes. We've gotten from the east, we've gotten from the west. As you know, most of them are from Westmoreland, and we've gotten from Clarendon. Now, we've also gotten from St. Catherine. Now, we don't know precisely how widespread this is, but we recognize that it's not limited to one parish. It is an absolutely detestable practice, and it's something that GPS does not support, does not condone. In fact, we have been working with the police to address this issue. One person was arrested. Thankfully, the people came forward with enough information to facilitate that particular arrest. And so we're asking persons to do two things. If anyone approaches you asking for money, to either pay for the material to do the restoration, which we heard today from one source, or to pay them to reconnect your supply, I'm going to ask you to do not accommodate them. Do not accommodate them. One, it is unethical, and two, you just might be exposing yourself and your property to damage. So do not accommodate them. We ask you to report them. If you can take a picture of their vehicles with the license plate, that would help. We're not able to do a lot with just a general report that somebody asking you for money. We need specifics, because the police has been engaged, and they are working with us. So it is a detestable practice. We really stand against people taking advantage of customers' desperation and trying to make a quick buck. And we've had a couple of situations where some person has gotten access to JPS infrastructure, done some reconnection without the lines being properly repaired, and created a situation that could have hurt someone. The community called us to say there was a live wire. We knew that there was no authorization to energize that particular community. But when we arrived, there was some attempt at re-energizing. We also understand that in another community, this time in Kingston, that persons were trying to reconnect or restore supply to an area, but they were overwhelmed because they didn't realize that there was some damage to that particular line segment. And when the spark started, they jumped in their vehicle and ran away. Now, this is something that is extremely dangerous and exposes people people's lives. I mean, we cannot condone that, and I'm begging our citizens not to support this kind of deviant behavior.
But as far as you're aware, none of these persons or none of these reports have turned out to be actual JPS workers.
Not as far as we know. We have not had anything to confirm that they are. The one person who was arrested was not a contractor, was not a JPS employee. So we don't know. We have no specifics beyond that one person that was caught by the police.
We have to leave it there. Thank you as always. Winsome Callum is the Director of Corporate Communications at the JPS.
Appreciate it.
We take the break and come back.
We are the best at what we do. At Hose Assembly and Supply Limited, we supply hose, fittings, and tools. We guarantee we can't be beaten when price and quality are combined. You brand us the Hose and Tool Boss because we deliver the most effective industrial solutions. Come in and experience the joy of shopping with Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. Call us 876-923-3936 or visit 173 Hagley Park Road, 2 Charlesworth Crescent or Montego Bay Trade Center. Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. More than just hoses. Now open every Sunday.
I stay locked into Olympics because, of course, I'm Jamaican.
I tune into the Olympics, but I'm always busy. What have to know when Sherika Jackson beat Chakari?
She's storming to victory here. Watch the clock. This is so fast.
Brother, I have to see every notification for the Olympics. Me, we want to hear every run.
The Jamaican's coming. He's closing. What a performance.
Every jump and every fling.
Oh, wow.
Live. Nothing can miss me.
We're always on the move.
So while I'm driving,
Thompson here from 60 odd, moving away, and she gets the victory.
She's jogging. Or at work.
Hurry, the race is about to start.
We can't miss a beat.
Oh, me?
Because we keep it locked.
To the only station for the Paris Olympics.
Nationwide.
90 FM.
Outperform, outlast. With top performance. Easy, Jackama. Reliable, full stop, not comma. We have the expertise for drilling and demolition. We have the power tools for plumbers and electrician. Fancy select tools, free parts and free repairs. 3 parts, free repairs. 2 to 3 years. Hilton, available at Delta Supply, 106 Hagley Park Road. Call us at 876-302-61114. Delta Supply, we service what we sell.
We've been a part of everyday Jamaican life for over 25 years. From paydays to birthdays, unexpected emergencies to anniversary celebrations, the supermarket checkout line, or paying a bill or taxes on time. Our fast, secure debit network provides reliable service so you can always depend on Multilink. Jamaican and proud, fast, secure, everywhere.
No matter where you come from, the classroom or the boardroom, the farm or the front line, there's no dream too big for us to achieve together. Catch the action live this summer with a 7-day Prime Router plan for $1,100 and enjoy premium access to Sportsmax on us. Activate a plan today. One side, one Digicel, one Jamaica. Digicel, better connected.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5. You're still in the cover story. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Sanjay Lewis.
And we're turning our attention now to a media briefing given by the Ministry of Health and Wellness to provide an update on the passage of Hurricane Beryl. The minister says 23 of the island's hospitals have returned to normal operations following the hurricane. He gave the update on Thursday.
Approximately 82 or 23% of all health facilities sustained major damage. That is a structural issue major damage being defined as a structural issue that impacted the ordinary running of the facility. Now, this is following the last 2 weeks of assessment. You will recall that we had given a preliminary assessment earlier, but the team have been in the field in the regional health authorities doing structural examination of buildings, roof, and so on. And we believe that what we have now reflects a much more accurate depiction as to what has transpired post-burial. So 82 or 23% of the total major damage sustained, 41% is impact to roofs. So roofing damage, a number of our facilities have lost their roof, those that have been impacted, or at least have damaged roofing, which has led to water intrusion within the building and, of course, contributing to damages to a number of internals. Impacts to windows and doors as well as electrical supplies were also identified among the major damage to health facilities. It's to be noted that 76% of total costs for the rehabilitation of the health system are in the Southern Regional Health Authority, that is the parishes of Clarendon, Manchester, and St. Elizabeth, and the Western Regional Health Authority, which is Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James, and Trelawney. Thankfully, in terms of hospitals, some 23 of our 26 hospitals are now back to normal operation, so 23 of 26. The remaining 3, Black River, Noel Homes, and Falmouth General, are still operating in emergency mode. And we're taking all the necessary action to get those back up as quickly as possible. Up to last evening, I saw some footage, pictures and videos sent to me from Falmouth, where a lot of work is going on in terms of roof repairs and so on.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton. He says part of the ministry's recovery plan will entail making health facilities climate resilient.
The ministry has developed a recovery plan that is to do the following. Firstly, to bring the operations in all health facilities back to normal capacity within the shortest possible time. Address all remediation that may affect service delivery, so bring service delivery back up to normal. And make more health facilities climate resilient, a medium to longer term strategy, by applying the WHO PAHO Smart Facilities Standards. You may recall that we have a program currently where, guided by the WHO PAHO, called Smart Facilities, that are facilities that would be resilient to climate related extremes. And we have about 19 facilities now that have benefited from this smart facility designation. So things like solar panels, water storage, all the things that would, storm shutters, the things that would ensure that those facilities withstand the sort of extreme weather patterns. And so we have the standards, those facilities held up, and what we want to do now is to, over the medium to long term, meaning over the next few years, and I'll get to that, begin to apply those smart facilities as we recover and rebuild the facilities that have been impacted. We're also moving with the Cabinet's approval, and these discussions have taken place at Cabinet, to implement the plan in 3 phases. The first phase involves activities that will bring the facilities back into full operation within 6 months. So those facilities that need the sufficient work or some work to get back into full operation within 6 months, we're going to be tackling that as a first phase in order to ensure that normality is restored, particularly in our health centers that have been most affected. The cost for that, based on all the estimates done, is approximately 1.7 billion Jamaican dollars. That's 1.729,970,441. So 1.7 billion approximately. The second phase, which we classify as restore. So the first phase is to restart. The second phase is to restore. And that will address repairs to parts of the buildings that have been damaged, but which do not affect operations, and is to be implemented within 6 to 12 months. And the cost for this is approximately 2.1 billion Jamaican dollars. The third phase and the final phase, which is a phase I will designate as the resilient phase, So restart, restore, and to make resilient. We'll see activities that will make the facilities resilient to natural disasters like hurricanes and meet the business continuity standards that is required when we have these occurrences for an essential service like health. The program of work should be implemented within 24 months or more. And as I said before, we already have the standards for this, the smart facilities. Only phase one will be undertaken in this financial year. It's important to note. So the 1.7 billion that we quoted to get activities back to normal, only that phase will be undertaken in this financial year. The work will continue as we go into additional years.
Dr. Christopher Tufton there, the Minister of Health and Wellness.
And it shows, Ricardo, that the matter of being resilient, we live in an area that is prone to hurricanes. We have to build back and be more resilient. Right. That's the source.
And it's something that the Prime Minister, said at the very top of this crisis, that we're going to have to look at, yes, you want to get the recovery up and running in the fastest possible way, but you also want to make sure that it's resilient. And one of the things that we have to continue to push for is climate justice, because, again, we're on the front lines of this, and, the effects it has on our region when we are not the prime cause.
We contribute so little,
and pay so much.
And we pay so much for it. Yeah.
The headlines are next.
Cover Story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Say hello to peace of mind and goodbye to worry with Guardian Life's new Ultimate Provider Plan, and secure your medical expenses in the event of critical illness today. Call 888-367-5433 for details.
The time by Guardian Life is
6:01.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening. With the headlines at 6, I'm Shalois Michael. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa McKenzie is reiterating the call for Jamaicans to take the necessary precautions against mosquito breeding sites across the island. Her call comes as Jamaica recorded over 1,400 dengue cases since the start of the year.
As at July the 16th, 2024, the National Surveillance Unit recorded between 2023 and 2024 11,768 suspected, probable, and confirmed dengue cases. So in 2024, so far, we would have been notified of 1,406 cases, and in 2023, we were notified of 10,362 cases. Of these cases that were notified, 1,774 were confirmed. The predominant serotype was dengue type 2. 1,746 were confirmed to be dengue type 2.
The CMO says 10 people have died from the disease.
For the period 2023 to 2024, we would have had 29 dengue-related deaths, 19 were suspected, and 10 were confirmed. And this just shows that dengue is a very serious illness, and at this time we really have to be very cautious in terms of preventing those mosquito bites.
Meanwhile, Dr. Bisesa McKenzie says young people continue to record the highest number of dengue cases island-wide.
The age groups that are affected are mostly our younger population. And we saw in 2019 when it was the babies that were severely affected. In 2023, the young population, but still going up to the 5 to 14 age group. So between 0 to 14 was where we had most of the cases. And this, of course, would be because the older population would have been exposed to the various serotypes during their lifetime and may have resistance, while the younger population are more newly exposed to some of these serotypes, and so they will get more infections.
Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa McKenzie, Chief Medical Officer. Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop has been sworn in as Jamaica's first female president of the Court of Appeal. She took the oath of office at King's House on Thursday. Addressing the swearing-in ceremony, Prime Minister Andrew Holness congratulated Justice MacDonald Bishop on her appointment.
Your swearing in today marks a historic moment for our judiciary and for Jamaica, as you become the first woman to hold this prestigious position. Justice MacDonald Bishop's ascension is a testament to her exceptional legal acumen, dedication, and the respect she commands within the legal community. Justice MacDonald Bishop, I am confident that under your leadership, the Court of Appeal will continue to uphold the highest standards of judicial excellence.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Justice MacDonald Bishop expressed gratitude for the opportunity to lead the country's appellate court. She vowed to work with the relevant stakeholders to uphold and defend the Constitution of Jamaica.
I intend to collaborate with the executive so that the judiciary, the third arm of government, can take its rightful place in the governance of this country. I must continue my labor for justice, for the benefit of all Jamaicans, even those who you may believe are guilty. But the Constitution must prevail at all times.
Justice MacDonald Bishop, President of the Court of Appeal. Energy Minister Darrell Vaz says it could cost the country 7 times as much money to run power lines underground as opposed to using light poles. The idea of running power lines underground has increased since the passage of Hurricane Beryl 2 weeks ago.
Just bearing in mind that the grid did not collapse as would have been expected. It went down to 30%. If it had gone down fully, we would be talking a different talk. So we have to give some credit for that. But yes, and the issue of whether or not the time has come for burying the lines is definitely up for discussion. The information that I have is that to bury as against put above is 7 times more the cost in relation to putting above ground than below ground.
The Category 4 storm affected more than 2,600 light poles across the country. Minister Vaz says the government is also exploring ways of providing backup power for health facilities and water pumping stations in the event of another weather system.
However, question is, do we have 7 times the value in relation to the destruction? So that discussion has to take place. I do believe that there are lessons to be learned, both in terms of the JPS and both in terms of government, in terms of how we prepare and what we do. You would have seen the Prime Minister speak about giving a mandate now for generators for all major health clinics, generators for all major water pumps, NWC pumps and other infrastructure. So it has gotten the attention in relation to where the biggest impact has been caused.
Darrell Vaz, Energy Minister. PNP caretaker for North Clarendon, Wavell Hines, is urging the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, to restore electricity to communities in his constituency where power supply has been cut by the passage of Hurricane Beryl. In a release earlier today, Hines said residents are growing restless and annoyed. He says it's imperative that JPS takes immediate action to mitigate the effects of the hurricane which swept the island 2 weeks ago. He went on to urge the Light and Power Company to deploy additional resources and personnel to hasten the restoration process. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Sports is next.
Does your bra ride up your back? Do your shoulders hurt from carrying the weight of your breasts? These are signs of an ill-fitting bra. When was the last time you were fitted by a bra fit specialist? The bra experts at LaBelle Femme will take care of you. Drop into the store at 53 Lady Musgrave Road, Tuesdays to Saturdays from 10 to 5, and